Hello there, people of the internet. There's some confusion out there of 30-06 versus 30-03. So what 30-03 is, let's go ahead and give a little bit of history and context behind this cartridge. This is going to be like a really watered... I got the hiccups. My goodness, that was a big one. Let's give like a really watered down history behind what the 30-03 is and why it is here. So way back in the day, my goodness, those hiccups have come back with a vengeance. Way back in the day, the United States was using this right here. This was the good old-fashioned trusty 45-70 trapdoor Springfield. Fired a 405 grain bullet. It was 45 caliber. Had 70 grains of black powder in it. It was known as the 405 45-70. And for all intents and purposes, this right here was a big old powerful firearm. This right here was basically what I tell people was the Buffalo rifle way back in the day. There was definitely way more powerful cartridges back then, like if we start looking at some of the Sharps rifle cartridges and whatnot, but that's a big old honking chunky boy going downrange. That's some pretty good respectable velocities considering the time period where it came about. Well, the French made smokeless powder in 1886. And after smokeless powder was made, all these other countries were scrambling to try and adopt a smokeless powder round. Well, the United States adopted the Krag-Jorgensen in 3040 Krag, which sends a 150 grain bullet moving about 2,400 or so feet per second, maybe 2,500. It depends on like brand of manufacturer and a bunch of different discrepancies and whatnot, but that's about what you would expect from the 3040 Krag cartridge. That's not exactly a powerful round, but it's not exactly an anemic round either. The big issue with the Krag rifles is that it is like a side-loading capsule magazine where there's no stripper clip guide or anything like that, so you just gotta take your rounds out of your pocket and drop them in one at a time, and then you close your magazine, and now you have the capacity to be able to fire 5 rounds of ammunition from your rifle. The Krag rifles are great rifles, they're buttery smooth, they're very nice, but from a military context, they were definitely not the best thing on the market. The United States government went up against Spanish with their Spanish Mausers. Do I have my Spanish Mauser sitting anywhere around here? I do. This is a 1916 Oviedo Mauser, but it is a Spanish Mauser, so this is the closest representation I have to what the United States was going up against with their Krag-Jorgensens. But they were going up against Spanish Mausers, the 1893 pattern, in 7mm Mauser, and the United States was not very comparable to the Spanish forces. This was during the Spanish-American War. On top of that, they also had their trapdoor Springfield rifles out there, and from what I've been able to read and tell, those right there were just so woefully inadequate in comparison to the Spanish Mausers. So come 1903, the United States adopted the 1903 bolt-action rifle, the bolt-action 1903 Springfield, and that is one of those rifles that everyone nowadays just has come to know and love. It's become like a legendary icon. But the 1903 Springfield was chambered in 30-03. And I had a it was a commenter down in the comments below, and he said that he wanted to get, he needed to get 1903 or 30-03 for his 1903 because it said 30-03 on the side and not 30-06 because it was a very, very early pattern of rifle. And I'd love to get my hands on one of those, like one of those old 1903 rifles that still says, you know, caliber 1903 or 30-03 or whatever it is that it said on the side. I don't know. I'm not the one who actually had it. But according to him, he needed to go out and get some 30-03 because the rifle is still chambered in 30-03 and not 30-06. Well, whenever the United States military made the 30-03 to go with their new 1903 Springfield rifles, what that was it was literally a 30-06 case with a 220 grain bullet inside of it. Now, the 30-06 case, the neck on it was like, I don't know, 46 thousandths of an inch, either longer or shorter, or some abysmally small dimension difference that would not matter because it's not a head spacing section of the cartridge. It's ever so lightly, like one is ever so slightly shorter than the other, but that doesn't matter at all. If you think that matters, then look at Romanian 8mm Mauser. It's like up to a millimeter shorter than all the other 8mm Mausers, and that doesn't affect anything whatsoever. But the 1903 was literally just the 30-06 first iterations that use a 220 grain bullet. The 1903 Springfield rifles, I think they've always had a 1 in 10 twist, so that would be able to stabilize this projectile pretty gosh darn well. But it was that large round nose design. This right here is kind of a soft point design. This is more of a hunting round. If this was a, I don't want to call it a full metal jacket, but a full metal jacket round nose, like what you would see with, like, say, Carcano ammunition, Carcano, however it is you feel like pronouncing that. It had sort of that style of projectile, but the 30-03 is just a 30-06 with a 220 grain bullet. There's no significant differences in the dimension of the cartridge to the point to where it would matter with your rifle. Like, the differences with the two cartridges are literally just the projectile. And so whenever people tell me I need to find 30-03 because I want to run 30-03 and not 30-06, then just go out and get yourself some 30-06 with 220 grain bullets, because that's literally what it is. In this particular case, this is a soft point. So it's if you were to load 30-06 with a 220 grain soft point, technically not 30-03 because it's not the right bullet type, but you have that bullet weight, and you're gonna get the same amount of performance that you would out of the 30-03. I would like to find some original 30-03 projectiles just for representation purposes. Maybe even take them out and do a little bit of accuracy testing and whatnot. But you're not gonna blow up your 30-03 gun by shooting 30-06 through it. I wouldn't necessarily run full power commercial 30-06 because it's definitely not what it used to be. And you want to pay attention to those early Springfield rifles. From what I've been able to tell, they had some heat treat issues, so you do want to watch it with those. But they are Mausers, and the ones that were done properly are nice and strong and done very, very well. So 220 grain bullets from a 30-06 is literally 30-03, with the one nuance being one is just a few thousandths of an inch shorter than the other. Now, to put that in context on how small that is, a human skin cell is about 1/1000th of an inch. So we're talking the length of just a few skin cells, just this ever so minute width or length. It is such a minor difference, and people make such a big deal out of it, and I never really understand why. I understand that in some contexts, that thousandth of an inch definitely plays a pivotal role. Like, for example, if we're talking about bullet dimensions, you want that to be accurate up to like 1/1000th, maybe 2/1000ths of an inch. As you go more and more one way or the other, you start to suffer from overpressure situations, or maybe a loss of accuracy if the bullet is too small. But even then, it would have to be several thousandths of an inch one way or the other to really significantly matter. But that's probably a topic for another video. I wanted to go ahead and talk about 30-03 versus 30-06 because they're literally the same thing. So if you want the experience of shooting 30-03, go out and get some 220 grain 30-06, because that's literally what it is. If you can manage to find some full metal jacket round nose 220 grain bullets and load them into your 30-06 cases, maybe trim your 30-06 back a little bit, or I can't quite remember which is bigger and which is smaller. I think the 30-03 is ever so slightly smaller than the 30-06. But trim back your 30-06 case just a few thousandths of an inch and throw a 220 grain full metal jacket inside of that bad boy, and you got yourself a 30-03. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll do that one of these days, just for fun. It would be a good time. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.